You're watching Oilers Nation every day with Tyler Yaremchuk. Your one-stop shop for all things Oilers.
If I have to hear Freebird one time tonight, I'm going to rip my ears off my head. Let's get into it with the lead. Welcome into Oilers Nation every day. The show, as always, a presentation of Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. As always, we come to you live from the Sports Closet studio. If you want to gear up for the big Team Canada game tonight, find Sports Closet online, sportscloset.ca, or I guess if you need it for tonight, 3 locations in the Edmonton area: St. Albert Mall, Sherwood Park Mall, and Kingsway Mall. Tyler Yaremchuk live on Oilers Nation. As always, I'm looking in the chat. I'm seeing Chell. This is the most hyped I've been since Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, 6 p.m. Can't come soon enough. LFG Canada. Quaddy, LFG Canada. Dulks, let's go Canada. Southpaw, let's go Canada. Something from Rusty. Not going to read it. Don't care. But tonight, as I bring in my boy Liam, is a big, big night, Liam. And honestly, I think if you would have shown this screenshot of the chat, if you would have been able to show people a month ago how excited they would be for this hockey game tonight, a lot of them would have been like, I don't believe you. I'm not getting up for this Four Nations. Our chat was littered with people 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, being like Mickey Mouse made up tournament. And now all everybody wants is a Canadian victory tonight. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It's been pretty cool just to see what the players have been able to do whilst we're there. And we saw it like right from the get-go when Canada played Sweden, wasn't it, to start the tournament, and just the pace they were playing at. And I think we all just kind of forgot what best on best truly was like. And I know we all want more teams there, and we're going to get that in the future. But I think the NHL did a really good job. And tonight's game, as you said by the chat, like very exciting for what is about to happen, especially after what we saw between these two teams on Saturday. I doubt we'll see 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game, but I still think it'll be a pretty intense game, to say the least.
It will be. Do you think we'll see a fight in the first 5 minutes of this hockey game?
I think the problem with it is Tkachuk, both of them have been injured, haven't they? So I think that'll probably play a factor in it. JT Miller got the wheels beat off of him. He probably doesn't want to do that again, I would imagine. But I wonder if Brandon Hagel could get involved in something. I wouldn't be surprised if the U.S. didn't like his comments from the other day.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I also thought the kind of comeback from Matthew Tkachuk was super lame. It's like, man, I don't know, kind of corny. You had a group chat to plan your 3 fights in a hockey game. Like, whatever. I liked what Brandon Hagel said, but you're right. I think Brandon Hagel's one of the guys, Liam, who's really bought into what his role is on this hockey team. He's embraced being an energy bottom 6 guy. I think he could be massive tonight. We're going to give our keys to victory here. We're going to be joined by our American friend, Frank Seravalli, who, I won't spoil anything, but he gave his prediction on DFO Live earlier today, and he likes Canada in this one. So we're going to go through why he likes Team Canada in this matchup. Liam and I will both talk about why we like Team Canada in this matchup, because you're not predicting a Team USA win, are you?
Never, ever. I would never go against my colors.
Attaboy, Liam. Your colors? Wait, what? Show me your passport.
Hey, you don't want to see it. I can't show it. Confidential.
We're doing a watch party at Greta tonight, correct?
There is a watch party down at Greta tonight. I think arrival time is 5 people. Yeah, doors open at 6 p.m. I don't think there's a cover charge for this one, which by cover charge, it all goes to charity anyway. But raffle tickets available, so you can donate to the Ben Stelter Foundation. And yeah, the one on Saturday was really, really fun. Obviously, not the outcome that the Canadian fans would have wanted, but to be in that atmosphere and again to see 3 fights right off the bat, it was pretty electric in there. And they also have the bed back, so that's something else. The bed is back.
If you get a little overstimulated or whatever, you need to take a timeout, you can use the bed at Greta. Anyway, shout out to our friends at Greta. If you're not going to Greta tonight, come on, what are you doing? It's going to be absolutely electric in there. Let's continue talking about the Four Nations Faceoff for our friends over at Service Credit Union. The Service Big Share Contest is back, and it's your chance to win $1 million just by saving money. Yes, it really is that simple. Every $500 you save gets you 5 entries into the Service Big Share Contest. You can find out more information online at service.ca/win. This contest ends April 30th. Skill test required. Liam, tonight, some of the big storylines heading into this hockey game. I guess I'll start with the health factor in this whole thing. I it's not gone like totally untalked about, but I think it's been maybe like underreported and not discussed as much as it should be. The fact that last Saturday, Charlie McAvoy, I mean, I know McDavid walked him on the one goal, but he hammered McDavid a couple times. He had a fantastic game. He's not in the lineup tonight. Canada didn't have Cale Makar in that game against Team USA last Saturday. They have Cale Makar tonight. The US's blue line is a lot weaker. Canada's blue line is a lot stronger, and we'll get into some other factors. But like even Matthew Tkachuk, Brady Tkachuk, Austin Matthews, they've all had question marks about their health over the last number of days here. They're going to play tonight. Mike Sullivan says they're in the lineup, but how much are they going to play? How effective are they? You talked about it. Like if they're both nicked up, are we going to see the same ferocious Tkachuks? Like health is a factor that is very much on the side of the Canadians in this.
Yeah, which is a big positive for Canada, of course, and the skill level Canada has too, I think, was honestly always better than what the US had. The US obviously had the physicality on the side of it, and the three players you listed there, not Matthews, of course, but like three of the most physical players that they had, if not the three biggest. So I think it's going to be huge. Like you said, the swing between having Cale Makar back and Charlie McAvoy being removed from this lineup. Like Jake Sanderson's no slouch by any means, but he doesn't bring that same level as what McAvoy would bring to that what are they called? The US blue line. I almost said Bruins blue line. But yeah, I think Canada is in a good spot. And I know Connor Hellebuck is going to play such a big factor in this, but the one thing I like is, again, the skill level Canada has, like, second time around in less than a week, you'd think they'll be able to crack Hellebuck a little bit easier this time.
Yeah, and like I said it this morning on DFO Live, and I'll say it here, like, and this is dumb, it's not really a key to victory, but like Canada, I think, is going to need to score 4 goals if they're going to win the hockey game tonight. I don't think they win this hockey game scoring 2 and winning 2-1 or 2-0 or even 3-1 or 3-2. I think they're going to need to find a way to get a 4th goal past Connor Hellebuck. And you go back to last Saturday, they scored 1 goal. It was on a high danger attempt. Other than that, their offensive attack looked, it was meh. It was vanilla, Liam. Like they were double clutching pucks. They were dusting things off. They weren't making sure decisions. Like Canada's strength, Canada's star power is the high end of their lineup. McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby, Cale Makar. Those 4 guys right there. If they get a power play, they're going to be on the ice together. But like those guys are going to need to generate a handful. And then to get that 4th goal to kind of push you over the hump, I think the ultimate difference maker will be in the bottom 6 for this team. You need one of Marner or Marchand or Hagler. One of these guys playing in the bottom 6 has to come through for you in a big way. At some point, you need one of those like unsung hero goals.
Big time. And all those players are more than capable of doing it. Again, like they're all first line players on their own teams. But Mitch Marner, for me, like you need him big time today. Like he's gone from being a first line player and obviously scoring that huge goal for Canada against Sweden, but he's been pretty invisible. Like what did you say yesterday? He's had one moment in this tournament. I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but you need him to step up and perform at the level he's capable of. And even a guy like Sam Reinhart too, like I know he's probably playing on the second line tonight and he had 3 assists the other game, but like he hasn't scored a goal yet, if I'm not mistaken. So one of those 2 guys for me, you really need him to help out your Crosbys, McKinnons, and McDavids on this team.
Yeah, totally, man. The offensive attack is going to be big in this one. And then on the flip side, like I found it interesting. I was reading some of the NHL edge numbers on this, and I know I brought this one up yesterday, but Connor Hellebuck has been perfect on the mid-range attempts he's seen in the tournament. He's stopped all 8 mid-range shots that he's faced in this tournament. Canada's only goal was a high-danger look. Canada can't be perimeter here, and that's what I mean. Like they have to just be naturally dangerous, right? Like we saw them again being way too timid in that game last Saturday. Canada needs to have a dangerous attack. You are not going to beat Connor Hellebuck with mid-range or long-range attempts. You got to get right to the blue paint. You got to find a way to get him moving laterally. And then you need to finish off the looks when you do get them. Again, high danger-wise, he's been, incredible too. 16 for 17. The only time a high-danger shot has beaten him in this tournament has been in tight. Connor McDavid, again, that was the goal. Jordan Binnington, it is worth noting, does have a slightly better high-danger save percentage, 963. He's faced 27 high-danger shots and turned aside 26 of them. Let's talk about the goaltending tonight. How nervous does Jordan Binnington make you?
Incredibly. It's not like the thing is about him too, like, and you just said it there with your numbers, it's not even the good shots that are beating him, it's the weak ones, and I think that's a disappointing part of it. I do think he was like, I think unlucky's not a good word for it, but like probably deserved a little bit better against Finland. I think 3 goals in the last however many minutes that was probably a bit harsh. He did okay that game. Against the US, he made some good saves too, but the 2 he allowed are probably the 2 he won, like the 2 that shouldn't have gone in the most. So I'm a bit nervous about it, but also he has shown that he can play big in these games. And I think last game too, like Canada obviously cheating for offense in some parts of it, and that second goal for Dylan Larkin was just kind of a bad line change. Like hopefully we just don't see that tonight and just a bit more structure for Canada. But I obviously am more confident in what Connor Hellebuck can do, but I am still a slight believer in Jordan Binnington because hey, this is the arena he won the Stanley Cup in as well.
Yeah. Just one more thing here. Shots on goal by location in this tournament. The United States has more high danger shots on goal. They're averaging 10 per game than Canada, who had 24 in 3 games. So the US is averaging 10 from high danger areas, Canada averaging 8. I'm telling you, if the high danger chances favor the US in this hockey game tonight, they're going to win. Like Canada, as much as USA's defense needs to hold strong and, make sure Connor Hellebuck is seeing pucks, not letting Canada's skill really get going and start cycling him and get to points where Connor Hellebuck can be pulled out of position. On the flip side, like Canada needs to make sure they are hemming the USA in their own end, because as much as I'm going to sit here and take a positive outlook and go, hey, Jordan Binnington hasn't been great the last 3 games, I'm going to give it the old he's due. Eventually, he's going to have a really good game. Tonight could very well be that night. And as much as I'm going to be positive, all that stuff, if you give up 10 high danger looks, 12 high danger looks, or whatever, then I worry about Jordan Binnington in this hockey game. So again, Canada controlling the pace of play is going to be just absolutely massive.
Yeah. I think I totally lost my thought. Oh, that was it. Last game I found that like Canada had some like chances to like shoot the puck, and I know you mentioned like they want to get Hellebuck like moving laterally, but also too like you can't do it every time. Sometimes you just got to rip the puck and see if you can beat him. Like there was one that stood out the most. I think he was on the power play kind of in the third period, like Drew Doughty, and there was a couple of guys in front of him too, not just to single him out, but he stands out of like had a great chance to just like get a shot away quickly and see if he could test Hellebuck and maybe even just like get a restart with a face-off, and just like hesitate so much, and the puck ended up coming out of the zone. It's like you're still an elite players, and I understand how good Hellebuck is, but like if anybody can beat him, it should be this group of players.
I'm with you, man, 100%. Let's do the lineups for tonight's hockey game. It's brought to you by our friends at Oodle Noodle, who want you to have a chance to go to Vegas with us. You can win a trip on the Nation Vacation to Vegas just by walking into an Oodle Noodle. No purchase necessary. Any of the locations in Edmonton, walk in and you can enter to win a spot on the trip. And then if you purchase some delicious Oodle Noodle, you're going to get a second entry into that draw as well. Your lineups for tonight. Let's start with Team USA here a little bit. Austin Matthews on the top line with Jack Hughes and Jake Gensel. Jack Eichel with Matt Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk. Again, both players had some question marks, but are going to play in this hockey game. Larkin with Boldy and Miller. And then the fourth line is kind of up for debate right now. Trocheck, Nelson, and Kreider is how it's listed. I know Cam Robinson had a tweet saying, hey, I think Kyle Connor is going to come out because they liked what Chris Kreider brought them in that Sweden game. I think that's a massive mistake. I would have Brock Nelson out of the lineup. Like, why are you sitting Kyle Connor? You want a guy like that, Liam, who, I mean, from a Canadian perspective, sit him. I guess I don't really give a shit. But like a guy who can change the game in one shot or one shift because he's that skilled, put that guy in your fourth line over Brock Nelson.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Like Brock Nelson, what did he play? He's been playing like less than 10 minutes a game. Like Kyle Connor, one of the best scorers in the NHL. You shouldn't be sitting that guy out of your lineup. Like Chris Kreider, yeah, I think respects what he did against Sweden and what was ultimately a meaningless game. So put that to whatever it's worth. But yeah, I would be taking Brock Nelson out of this lineup. Absolutely.
D pairings, Jacob Slavin with Brock Faber. Again, that was kind of the Charlie McAvoy spot, and that Slavin-McAvoy duo worked really, really well. Werenski with Sanderson, Noah Hannafin with Adam Fox. Not sure how much we'll see the Hannafin and Fox pairing, but it's interesting that Jake Sanderson is ahead of Adam Fox on this depth chart. Adam Fox has not had a very good tournament. He's off power play 1. Canada doesn't have last change, obviously. USA is the higher seed, is going to be the home team in this hockey game. So again, I'm not sure how much of that third pairing we'll see. I don't think they've been that good, but again, maybe a potential area for Canada to exploit. If it's like Slavin and Faber going up against the Crosby line, and then you have Werenski and Sanderson going up against the McDavid line because they can skate really, really well and keep up with 97, then let's see if Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner, Brandon Hagel, those guys in the bottom six, can they take advantage of that Hanifin-Fox pairing, which is crazy to say because they're both top pairing defensemen in the NHL. But like, you get what I'm saying. It's best on best. Things change.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funny to say that after what is a former Norris winner, Adam Fox. But the thing you said there, that the line, the US being the home team and obviously getting the line advantage, it's such an interesting thing to me in this best on best because like obviously everyone's so good. Like Canada, like it also kind of plays to their advantage, I guess, in a way of like, hey, we're going to throw out McDavid's line. What are you going to do to match that? And if you're going to do that, then we're going to throw out McKinnon next time. And just like, I feel like somewhat an advantage to Canada as well to almost be able to manipulate the lines that are going out there. So either way, everyone's the best. But yeah, if they can exploit that weakness, I guess we can call it, on the Vegas blue line and the Vegas blue line, the US blue line, then yeah, Canada could do well. But Zach Werenski for me has been unreal this tournament. He's been so good for the US and just this season in general. It's kind of nice to see him get a bit of a breakout season despite how good he's been his whole career. But this year really feels like he's getting noticed.
Well, if you remember, Zach Werenski missed basically all of last season with a shoulder injury, right? So the fact he's back playing at this level of hockey, he's a guy who I highlighted coming into the tournament as like, listen, he ain't playing with scrubs in Columbus. I'm not saying that. They're having a very, very nice season. But seeing a guy who's that skilled, who thinks the game the way that Zach Werenski does, man, putting him on a team, and you can see in the numbers with 5 assists through the 3 round robin games, you put him on a team with a ton of skill and he flourishes. Like that, Werenski's an X factor for me tonight. Because again, you can also, we talked about the skating with him and Sanderson. Like if anyone can go toe to toe and prevent Connor McDavid from zipping down the middle of the ice, beating you wide and scoring a big goal, like it's going to be the Werenski-Sanderson pairing. So yeah, I think they're absolute X factors in this game. Yeah,
I would agree. Was there any changes to Canada? Just one change on the Canada lineup, right?
Yeah, so let's get into that. The forward group for Team Canada, you got Connor McDavid with Braden Point and Mark Stone, Nathan McKinnon with Sidney Crosby and Sam Reinhart. That top 6 seems pretty set in stone. Cirelli with Hagel and Marner, and then the fourth line does have a change. Konechny out, Jarvis in. He'll play with Sam Bennett and Brad Marchand. When you look at this, I like that you brought up Sam Reinhart a little bit earlier on, Liam. Like that's a guy, again, he scored 50-plus goals last year. We'll probably do it again this season. He is an elite finisher, and he kind of reeks of one of those guys who it'll be the narrative of like he saved his goal for a big, big moment. Like I could see him coming through in a big way for Canada. And hey, Oilers fans, again, earmuffs. He did score the Stanley Cup winning goal last year. He's got that clutch gene. Canada's got a lot of guys like that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna bring it up as well. But yeah, obviously he scored the Stanley Cup game-winning goal, so he can show up and he is a lethal player. But for me, he has to be a difference maker tonight. And just one goal, honestly, is good enough. You just have to have an impact on the game. I think having Seth Jarvis in is a good call. I don't think Travis Konechny is probably his best by any means this tournament. I do like him a lot, but I don't know. It seems to have been a bit too much for him. And Seth Jarvis hasn't been perfect either, but probably the good change there, I would think.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jarvis gives you just a little bit more. I like Jarvis more as a player. It all lines up. D pairings for Team Canada. Obviously, you have Taves and Makar. I've been really disappointed in Devon Taves in this tournament. I actually think he's been one of Canada's worst defensemen. They need him to be at a much, much better level tonight.
Yeah, it's always interesting, isn't it? Because it seemed like he was such a lock to make this team, and obviously he did. But like when McCall was out of the lineup, it almost, and he's a different player, but he was kind of like when Chris Kunitz wasn't playing with Sidney Crosby at the Olympics. Like, well, what do you do with this guy now? He doesn't bring a lot of offense to the team, and like, yeah, he needs to be better. But I have liked Josh Morrissey quite a bit in this event, and Cole Parayko too. I think that pairing's been really, really good.
And just like the U.S.'s second pairing is a big X factor, I view this second pairing for Team Canada as a really big X factor because Sanderson, Werenski, they can be the guys who are matching the speed of Team Canada. Morrissey, Parayko, I think they're two guys who won't shy away from the physical play of Team USA. I have that pairing on the ice with Brady, Matthew, and Eichel as often as I possibly can.
Yeah, I would agree. Colin Parayko, interesting. Again, like a very controversial player to like make this team. And to be fair to, I think a lot of those players that were like, why did this guy make the roster? They've really changed the narrative around around their selections, and Colton Parayko, obviously the one on the blue line that's made a big difference. I'm curious, what have you thought about Travis Sanheim? I think he's been better than expected.
Yeah, I agree. I know there's a lot of people who are like, I would have kept Thomas Harley in. I actually think Sanheim's been good. Doughty's the puck mover on that pairing. Sanheim, I like the flexibility, flipping left to right. I wasn't a fan of that pick, but I wasn't a fan of Sanheim or Parayko being on the team, but you're right. They both kind of changed my opinion of them. Just to wrap up on the Taves-Makar conversation as well. Like, Taves has not been good. They picked him because of his chemistry with Cale Makar, and the galaxy braining of picking those two guys so they can stay together and not having Zach Hyman on this roster is insane. Like, I'd love Canada's top line so much more if it was Hyman, McDavid, Point. Like, that would just be an absolute wagon of a line. And Mark Stone's a great player. I'm not trying to say Mark Stone is not a great player in any way, but I don't know. I just think Hyman would give you a little bit more. So, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing quickly too, I think the absence of Mark Scheifele has been very apparent as well. The more I thought about it, like the idea of having to have Braden Point on that check-in line like they had against the US, like even if Hyman isn't on the team, but you have Scheifele, at least you can have Scheifele on that line as a center and Point up higher. I think it just gives them more offense and a bit more of like a bit more of a gamer mentality, you know?
Yeah, and I've liked what Sam Bennett's brought to the lineup. Obviously, he had the fight. He gave this team an emotional charge. But, like, there's also no denying who the better hockey player is between Mark Scheifele and Sam Bennett. So, like, would Mark Scheifele have dropped the gloves with someone? I mean, maybe.
He's not afraid of it by any means. He's a tough. He's the WWE guy of the NHL. From that Jake Evans moment on, he is on a heel turn.
All right, let's continue the show, continue our preview for tonight's game by heading out to the Star Mechanical guest line. It's Edmonton's #1 plumbing and heating company. You know them, you love them, and that's because they've been one of Edmonton's largest locally owned companies for the last 20 years, whether it's residential, commercial, 24/7 emergency service. They do it all. They do it well, and you know what? They're so committed. Tonight, third period, tie game. If something breaks in your house and you have an emergency, yes, Star Mechanical will come out to help you. It might not be red. He might have the phone turned off, but shout out to Star Mechanical. Shout out to our boy Frank Seravalli, who joins us live on the show out in Boston with me. And Frank, let's just start with kind of a vibe check for tonight. How's your excitement kind of grown throughout the day? I mean, we were at Banners, our bar where we're doing DFO Live from 11 a.m., table of Canadians. They were drinking a yard of beer.
Yeah. As I say all the time, friends don't let friends drink with Canadians because you end up in some deep, dark holes. And no, that's what makes this fun. And I can quite literally barely contain my excitement. This might be, in the end, the biggest game that I cover. And it's for a million reasons. And I've covered multiple Game 7s of Stanley Cup finals. I've been to multiple Super Bowls, World Series, whatever it might be. This is totally different. And it's not necessarily just for the political vortex that the NHL has found themselves in. It's really because I believe this could be a watershed moment for this sport in this country. Canada, as I just wrote on dailyfaceoff.com and rereading and listening to and thinking about Herb Brooks' speech before 1980 and the Miracle on Ice, this is an opportunity for the U.S., which has always been multiple steps behind. The reason why I say this is the biggest game played on American soil since 1980 is because, with all due respect to 2002 in Salt Lake City, the U.S. wasn't ready to take the mantle from Canada then. And now this program has been built up to the point where they've got firepower that is close to being on par with Canada. And they've got the goalie and they've got the talent to be able to really, for the first time ever, stake a true, authentic claim. And yeah, it's not the Olympics. It's not the World Cup of Hockey. But this would go a long way in terms of doing that. And with this audience, there's some real power in that.
Yeah, 100. It's kind of crazy to think we're at this point after like what everyone thought the event was going to be. And you somewhat answered it there within the hockey world, but like, how influential do you think this tournament can be outside of hockey? Like, we see like all these other, like we saw Bill Simmons send out a tweet how he was watching Canada US the other day instead of the NBA All-Star event. Barstool's doing a watch along for it tonight. Like, this feels like it's kind of changed the idea of what the NHL is to a lot of people.
And now there's pressure, I think, on the NHL, Liam, you've got these people in the boat. How do you keep them? And we've had other Olympic successes. 2010 in Vancouver is one of the most watched hockey games ever on both sides of the border. We're talking about that level of attention tonight. I think at a bare minimum, it starts with 10 million people watching in the US. And you've got a chance for fireworks. And you see JJ Watt tweet, and you see President Trump calling the players today. You see all these different people that don't watch hockey, care about hockey, talk about hockey. My friends, all of them, everyone's interested. Like, this has become an event, and the ticket prices bear that out. The people waiting for merch in line outside of TD Garden, people wearing Canada and USA gear around town that aren't going to the game. This is transcended just some tournament, and it's become a battle for two really proud countries.
Yeah, Dacky is in. He says that's why the first goal is huge for both teams. Paul Paduti wrote a great piece at Daily Faceoff, kind of going back through some previous best-on-best hockey games and some trends that have come out of those games. But scoring first will be big. Getting off to a good start will be big. Do you think we see fisticuffs the way we did last Saturday night at the Bell Center? Or do you think there's just going to be more of a focus on, like, play hard, play physical, but we don't need the extracurriculars?
My bet is we'll see just one in the opening stages, and then let's play. I think there's so much pent up angst and, frankly, anger. The US felt it when they had their anthem booed in Montreal on Saturday. And then today, I'm sure Canada's feeling part of it. The sitting president of the United States, again, taunting and threatening the sovereignty of Canada. You don't think that seeps into the soul of Canadian players and Canadian fans everywhere, that the president of the United States can just flimsily and on a whim tweet about making Canada the 51st state? That has to sink in. So I look at that, and I think that's what helps boil over. I mean, John Cooper he didn't hint at the fighting, but he was like, basically the question was, are you aware of what's happening? And he said, oh yeah, aside from the president tweeting about, us being the 51st state. So everyone gets it, everyone hears it. And I think that alone is going to have that cauldron sort of spill over and bubble over.
Yeah, I would agree. To be honest, it's hard to keep politics out of the game when it's just like so loud. But either way, just to get back onto the ice, I guess, like, what do you think Canada has to do differently tonight to beat Connor Hellebuck than what they did on Saturday?
So I thought John Cooper, as he is wont to do, really explained it eloquently, Liam. He said, the first 180 feet of the ice, we were great against the U.S., and it was the last 20 feet that they weren't nearly as good. And so that's the area, of course, right around Hellebuck and around the net. It was way too easy for him to see pucks. We had a great vantage point at Bell Center where you actually had to, like, on the gondola, kind of lean over to be able to see that one net, and to see how easily he was able to see shots, because we could see the angle from above of how they were coming in. That made his job so much easier. I think Tyler had the stat about 0 medium danger goals allowed. I mean, it's kind of been the opposite for Jordan Binnington. If you think about it, this tournament, sort of innocuous shots have gone in. And maybe when you have teams that are as close as this, that is just the margin of difference. But for Canada, it's traffic, it's greasy goals, it's making things happen, and sometimes out of nothing. It can't just be a flashy end-to-end rush or something that's a 2-on-1. They need to really bring it from that aspect, which I think also ties into the fisticuffs and that other stuff that we saw. The U.S. was clearly the aggressor on Saturday, and Canada was, even though they scored first, they were on their heels for quite a bit, and they got punched in the face early. Now, can Canada do the same thing and reverse it? in a hostile environment, that's going to be a big test.
This popped up in our chat, and it's something I'd been thinking about too. When Colton Parayko made this team, a lot of people, myself included, kind of went like, oh yeah, Doug Armstrong just makes sure his boy is there. It felt like kind of a favoritism sort of pick. He's played great, and I turned to our boy Pat Puff the other day, and I was like, hey, maybe Doug Armstrong put Parayko on the team to boost up his trade value and showcase him a little bit. He would be an unbelievable fit on the right side of the Oilers blue line, but like, I'm taking crazy pills, right? There's no way St. Louis would trade a guy like that.
I mean, I know you can dream being an Edmonton guy, but I don't see it. I mean, I just think with the term that he has, how reasonable that contract is, his size on a blue line that has so many other issues and problems, particularly with guys getting older, that it makes very little sense for them to move on. But that said, in the same breath, I also think Doug Armstrong would trade his own mom if he could. And it brought him value. So I think, he made that joke about the offer sheet and how he would offer sheet his mom. So I think the same applies here.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Tyler said, Parayko was a surprise pick. Who has been, I guess, the most surprising player for you at this tournament, like either good or bad?
Man, I think there's a lot of guys that have been disappointing in some ways. Like not truly awful, but it's really odd how all three of the big guns for the Toronto Maple Leafs have, they're not invisible, but they haven't impacted the game in the way that they should. William Nylander didn't do it for Sweden. Mitch Marner had a moment in OT, but was really quiet the rest of that game and most of this tournament. Austin Matthews has hit some posts, a couple crossbars. He hasn't converted. And so that part has definitely been interesting. And if they were getting here to dispel the notion or narrative that they don't show up when it matters most, they haven't really done a good job of poking any holes in that yet, but there is still one massive game to go. I've been disappointed and surprised by Kyle Connor, but as Tyler and I talked about on Daily Faceoff Live this morning, that, look, if you're looking for one moment, one goal, some magic to happen, he's one of those guys I think you would have to leave in the lineup in order for that to happen. But we'll see. Mike Sullivan wouldn't confirm his lineup. And I think a lot of the other selections, which we've keyed on and beat to a pulp, but Konechny and Jarvis and some of these other guys, I would like to believe that Canada is ruining the selection, passing up on someone like Zach Hyman, because just such a difference maker. I know you mentioned that off the hop before I joined, but I think such a difference maker and exactly the type of player you need in a game like this to make a difference.
This one came in on our chat earlier from Brian, and he wanted to know who's one player after watching this tournament that's not at the tournament that you think absolutely needs to be on Team Canada next year. Is it Hyman? Is there anyone else on that list?
I think you'd have to consider Tom Wilson with the success that he's had, with the physicality that the U.S. has showed. And, our colleague Anthony DeMarco asked me during one of the games at Bell Center the other day, he said, does the U.S. roster look redundant to you? And I said, no, but what does stand out is a theme that every forward in that group is big, heavy, difficult to play against, maybe with the exception of Jack Hughes. Otherwise, everyone's got size. They bring something to the table, and they've surrounded themselves with guys that are menaces and difficult to play against. And Canada, they've got the vaunted attack and high-end skill and little elements of that with guys like Konechny and Bennett and others, but just not enough. And I don't think maybe enough to go toe-to-toe, but tonight will be a fascinating answer to that question.
Can I offer maybe a bit of a counterpoint to that idea? When you get to and this is why I love that we're going to be in a point and a rhythm of like Olympics, year off, World Cup, year off, Olympics, bigger ice and the double IHF rules. I think you can make an argument that having Sam Bennett's and Konechny's and Tom Wilson's, they have a bigger chance of being a liability than they do something that helps you out with how tight they call that rule book.
The rule book maybe, but they're going back to NHL ice for Olympics and
Oh, they are.
beyond. So
Okay.
it's not going to be played with the larger ice surface. So I think that's something to keep in mind too, that the game won't be changing that much.
Okay, good point.
For the World Cup in 2028, there's talk about being 8 teams there. Obviously, you kind of get down to teams 7 and 8 if it's Germany, Austria, whatever it may be, and there isn't that many NHL players. Like, how are they gonna figure that out? They're gonna obviously have to build some kind of relationship with the European teams, right?
Yeah, so I actually asked that exact question of NHLPA Executive Director Marty Walsh. I taped a podcast with him this morning. It'll drop on Frankly Speaking soon. But that really is to be determined. I'd like to see a qualifying tournament where you've kind of got the 6 more traditional teams, and obviously Russia, whether or not they're in, will determine if that's enough. But allow teams to play their way in, even the smallest or smaller hockey countries. I'd like to see Anze Kopitar and Slovenia go up against Germany, even though they have Draisaitl and Stützle and others. Give some of these other countries a chance to win their way in. And maybe that's 3 additional games of wear and tear for these guys that you don't want them to play before an NHL season starts. But I think it should be a meritocracy, and it should be based partially on IIHF world rankings, even though it's not an IIHF tournament, that at least gives everyone a chance.
Before we let you
awesome. Like, sorry, I was going to say, like, having those 6 teams, whatever it may be, like, they go to Europe for the summer of 2027, whatever it is, and go and play. Like, that's a way to grow the game in those countries, right? Like, instead of having all the stars go over, it's like, how about you cheer for your own team?
Yeah,
that's sense. It. And do it in September, right before training camp starts. Guys are kind of ramped up and in good shape, and hopefully there's no injuries, and you play a 3-game round robin, and the winner of the round robin is who advances to the World Cup.
Yeah. Frank, before we let you go, wanted to ask one trade deadline related question. The Seth Jones talk out of Chicago. Some people saying like, hey, what would a Seth Jones at 50% retained cost? I mean, the GM who signed him to that contract is now the GM of the Edmonton Oilers. What's the latest on Seth Jones? Do you see any sort of a fit in Edmonton?
I really don't. I mean, certainly not from a cap perspective. And even at 50% retained, like, I know, especially with Evander Kane having resumed skating, that there is a significant amount of concern as to whether or not he will be out for the season. And the Oilers are sifting through that. I think they're hoping to get an answer by March 1st ahead of the March 7th trade deadline. And that is going to determine in a huge way how aggressive they can be, because if Kane does have any designs or could potentially be back during the regular season, we're looking at a dollars in, dollars out scenario. And so with Seth Jones specifically, he also, so 2 things. One, I don't think there's been a ton of action yet with the Blackhawks and teams calling. And 2, Jones has a full no trade and also hasn't really given a ton of teams for the Blackhawks to even work through. So there's a lot of conversations to unfold. And the key part for Chicago, if they are going to retain, and especially if they're going to retain 50%, that they are really going to have to think long and hard about what constitutes true value. And I don't think they've come up with that answer yet.
There you go. Frank Seravalli, dailyfaceoff.com. Frankie, we're going to be going live tonight immediately following the game between Canada and USA. So everybody that's watching this, head over, subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube. Like, I mean, maybe this is a dumb thing to say, but like, there's no way this game disappoints, right, Frank?
It's going to be really hard. I mean, could I see a world in which Canada wins 4-1? Yes, but is it going to be like that in the first period? I'd be very surprised.
Yeah, see, and I was almost going to go the reverse way. I was going to be like, if this game is a blowout, it's because Jordan Binnington stunk and they had to pull him and they were down 3-0 after the first. But I'm really hoping that doesn't happen. I think we're going to get a great hockey game, and hopefully it's a fantastic showcase for the sport. Thank you for popping on, Frank.
I have no doubt. See you guys.
See you, Frank. There you go. Bye, Frank. Big hockey game tonight, obviously. Really enjoyed the piece, Liam, that our pal Paul Paduti at Adjusted Hockey on Twitter. He put one out at dailyfaceoff.com where he talked about sort of some key storylines that have existed in previous best on best games. The team that scores first has won 8 of the final 11. The team with the better goaltender has gone 7-1 in the last 8 finals. So that maybe doesn't bode well for Canada. But another thing that I found interesting was he says the team with the biggest superstar almost always wins. Interesting. It was whatever it is, 7 of 8 as well for the team with the best group of star forwards has won. Another thing that he found very, very interesting, and this is where I wanted to zero in for a second here, a little adversity has helped out more often than not. Paul writes that teams who have had a loss earlier in the tournament and have had to play through some amount of adversity actually tend to win the final game more. If you remember back in Sochi in 2014, Canada had some really anxious moments, right? A 3-1 win against Norway, an OT game against Finland. They barely beat Latvia in a quarterfinal, and Sweden had just dominated and gone 5-0. Canada came through, won that tournament. You go back to Vancouver, Canada loses to the USA earlier in the tournament. They beat Switzerland in a shootout. They go through adversity, and what do? Win the gold medal on home soil. Back in Turin, Finland was ahead 7-0 in the gold medal game. Sweden had lost to Slovakia and Russia. Finland was 7-0 going into the gold medal game. Didn't end up mattering in that tournament. They lose the final. Salt Lake City, Canada lost 5-2 to Sweden to open the Olympics. Tied Czechia. They went 1-1 in the round robin. They win gold over the Americans in Salt Lake City. So the examples of these tournaments, it's hard to beat a team twice when the margins are so thin and the teams and players are so talented.
Yeah, and I do you know who the one loss was when the goalie was better than the other?
The one loss he had Ryan Miller being a better goalie than Roberto Luongo at the time, and Luongo won. So even that one's like,
that's coin flip, really, isn't it? Obviously, the goalie battle in this one is quite a bit different than Ryan Miller and Roberto Luongo, but the superstar one is the one for me. Like, Canada has at least 3 of the 5 best players in this game, if not 4 of the 5, if you want to throw Crosby in there, and however you kind of round out things. But I would say Hellebuck is easily the US's best player, but probably the 3rd or 4th best player in this game. So I like what the superstar angle of this. I really do think McKinnon, McDavid, both of them been in these huge moments before and needed their teams to guide them to a victory is something that I'm going to look at tonight. And I really do think that's like the main key to victory for Canada.
Fair. All right. Let's continue along with the show, Liam. We'll get back to the Four Nations stuff in a moment, but let's do a quick rumor mill, actually, because I see some of you in the chat are talking about it. A rumor mill brought to you by our friends at Charm Diamond Centers. You can find out more about the Charm Masterpiece program, which allows you to get a custom ring built and delivered in less than 4 weeks. Visit them online, charmdiamondcenters.com. Not a rumor. Tyson Barrie on waivers today in Calgary. No, he's not an answer, everybody.
He's had a tough go, hasn't he, since he left Edmonton? It's kind of crazy to see how much he fell off. Like, I know he by no means was like a Norris candidate that one year, but like led the league in points by a defenseman, gets to Nashville the year after, really is in and out of the lineup in his second year there, and now on waivers. Like, I would not be shocked just to see him retire or go to Europe at the end of next season. So too bad. I think a guy that's had a promising career, a great career, to be honest, with what he was. But yeah, not unexpected. He's barely played. Like, what's he played? Like 12, 13 games for them this season?
Yeah. Barely played. The University of Alberta Golden Bears are going to be in action this weekend, playing playoff games at Claire Drake Arena. One of the big stories in their season has been rookie defenseman Marc Lajoie, who played in a game with the Bakersfield Condors last season. Now, I am under the impression he is committed to a college for next season, but you're writing in here that he's been linked to the Oil?
Yeah, I saw a few things online yesterday, something over at The Athletic, that there's a possibility of him signing a contract with the Oilers organization next season. I had also heard that he was probably going to go off to the NCAA with the rule changes, obviously. But I mean, hey, he signed with them last season. He's a solid player, but I do think going to the NCAA would be a good step for him just to elevate his game a little bit. But like, what have you kind of thought of him this season in general? I think I was more curious about, to be honest. Do you think he's capable?
He will need seasoning. Like, he's not a guy who's coming and playing NHL games without a year, probably 2 full years in the American Hockey League. But when you have a guy who's that big, who is so smart and is so good with the puck on his stick, yeah, it's a good idea to take a flyer on him. A 6'7" defenseman who can produce offense, move the puck, and still skates pretty well, even with him being a bigger guy. Like, I think he's got a little bit different stylistically, but like, he's got a little bit of Colton Parayko in him, I think.
Well, yeah, like you said, 6'7". He's only 21. Still relatively, well, not relatively young. That's very young. So I wonder what college he could go to. Obviously, there's different levels of it, but I like to see him play in Hockey East, which is like your UMass's, Boston colleges, like, and it's an elite level. Also to the what's he called? What, Denver and like your Omaha, Nebraska's. I can't remember what that division is called, but either way, like if he's able to land a spot there, then if I was the Oilers, I'd let him go. See if you can pick him up next year. But also too, maybe they're thinking like, hey, like, we don't really want these Eastern Conference teams to get an eye on what he's capable of doing, which is also fair too.
Mm-hmm. All right. Liam, do you want to play Liam's game and give away $50 to our friends at the Sports Closet?
I would love to. We have not done this for a long, long time.
So here, refresh me on the rules to this game again. Like, how do we do this? I forget.
So the way we did it before is players who have played from the Oilers from 2000 onwards.
Okay.
But this one I made a Canadian version. So what this one is a former or current Oiler who has played for Team Canada at a professional event. So this is not your World Juniors, U18s, all that kind of stuff. So this is, we only have one because we only have one gift card to give away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Aaron, whenever you're ready, we can flash it up. Are you able to do the wheel?
I'll do it. I'll do the prize wheel. So first 5 people to get the correct answer spelt correctly in the YouTube chat get entered in. Liam, give me the clues.
Here we go. I represented Canada at the World Championships. I am a defenseman that still plays in the NHL. I have played for both Edmonton and Calgary. I've played over 500 games in my career, and I've actually played for Canada twice at a professional level. Who would it be? Who could it be? A lot of people putting forwards in there, even though I said defenseman. Tyler, you're muted. No one's going to know. You're clearly just trying to hide the answer. You're back. There you go.
Okay, I'm back. I represented Canada at the World Championships, defenseman over 500 games. I played for Canada as a pro twice. Actually, wait, Liam, I just realized you need to text me who the correct answer is. I don't know who it is.
Oh yeah. A good point. Okay, I'll text.
Like, I think I know who it is, and I think there's a couple people who have guessed it, but I mean, I want to be 100%
I actually haven't seen anybody do it yet.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah.
He's played for them twice?
Yeah, he has. I couldn't believe it either.
Okay. No one's gotten it yet.
Very, like, we'll give it a few more, maybe another 30 seconds.
He played for Calgary?
Yeah, he was traded there. Right?
Yes, he played 20. Here's a hint. Here's a hint for everyone. He played 20 games for Calgary. He's also played for the Vancouver Canucks. I'm going to give another hint because I think the people are going to need it because no one's still gotten it yet.
Kind of crazy. I didn't think this would be that wild of a selection.
I can't believe he's played twice. Like, people straight up don't have a clue. It's not Chris Russell, guys. It is not Chris Russell.
No,
it's not Brett Kulak. It's not Corey Cross. It's not Jason Smith. It's not Theo Peckham. We finally have one. All right, that one I'm gonna
coming in. There you go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, Aiden, Rusty, McHigh and Dry, Wooent, however you say that, and not Owie.
It's Troy Stetcher, of course.
It is Troy Stetcher somehow. All right.
Troy Stetcher played for Canada at the World Championships in 2019 and in 2021. So there you go.
Good pull, Liam. Good pull. Okay, we got McHigh and Dry, Rusty, Aiden, Wooent, and not OEN. Aiden O'Neill in the draw. Here comes the spin. The winner is Woo Int. Woo Int. If you want to send me an email, Tyler at thenationnetwork.com. Tyler at thenationnetwork.com. Tell me who you are. Tell me you're the winner, and I will get you hooked up with our friends over at the Sports Closet. Check them out online, sportscloset.ca. A couple more things to get to before the end of the show, Liam. It is a Sherwood Ford Giant game day here for Team Canada, brought to you by Sherwood Ford and the all-new Nation Valet. It's been available all month, and you only have 8 more days if you want to use it and be entered into a draw to win your way into the Nation Vacation. It is very, very easy. You just pick up the phone or go to sherwoodford.ca, book the valet service, which they just drive to your house, pick you up, or pick up your vehicle, drive it back to the dealership, do the work, then drive it back. You never leave your house, never visit the dealership again for routine maintenance, and just say you want Nation Valet Service. You're going to get yourself a swag pack, and you're going to get entered into a draw courtesy of Sherwood Ford the Giant to join us on the Nation Vacation. All right, Liam, here's your Sherwood Ford Giant question. Give me, and I can go first if you want to think for a second, your super specific prediction for how this game goes.
Okay, my super specific prediction. I will say a defenseman scores the first goal with a shot from the blue line that gets through traffic. Either side. Is that specific enough? I kind of have images in my head. I could see it being Josh Morrissey or Jake Sanderson. Like just very much like a random guy like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to, so here's how I think this game plays out tonight. We get a fight in the first 5 minutes. I don't know who it's going to be. Someone fights. With the building absolutely rocking, Team USA goes up 1-0. Jake Gensel scores a goal. It's a nice enough goal. You're not super pissed at Jordan Binnington about it. In the final minutes of the first period, Canada ties the game up. It's going to be Connor McDavid scoring again. 3rd straight game where he'll get Canada's first goal of the game. It's 1-1 going into the intermission. Canada comes out in the second period. Sidney Crosby makes it 2-1, and then Braden Point makes it 3-1 at the end of the period. It's 3-1 Canada heading into the second intermission, Liam. We're all feeling good. Everyone in TD Garden wearing U.S. sweaters. They're biting their fingernails. They're nervous. And they come out, Matt Tkachuk, really early in the third. Boom! It's 3-2. Oh, boy. Things start to tighten up a little bit. I'm turning to my boy Pat Puff in the press box. I'm going, Pat, I'm getting nervous, man. I'm getting really nervous. And then after a couple of quick chances, USA puts on an onslaught of an offensive attack. Jordan Binnington makes a crazy glove save sliding across. He absolutely robs Austin Matthews. And then Canada scores again. They make it 4-2, Liam, and they win the game 4-2. What do you think?
I love it. I mean, it's clear like you've been dreaming of this the last couple of days. No one thinks about all of that on the spot, but I'm all in. I have a question for you though. If there is a fight, and I know you said you didn't know who it would be, like who would you want to see fight? Like who's the guy that you're like that would be something?
Drew Doughty.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Crosby would be for me, but I don't think Crosby would fight within the first 5 minutes. I think that's more of like a late second period one, like 5 minutes left or so. It won't happen because he had the wrist injury, of course. So very unlikely. But the other one that would be just nuts and just show that there is like you are playing USA, Canada, and nothing else matters. Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk would be crazy.
Yeah. Jason is in. I don't understand how we talk about how nervous Binnington makes us, but with Skinner, that's our guy. I don't understand. Very, very simple. Best on best hockey, it's totally different. We just talked about how if you're Team Canada, you're trying to expose a pairing that has Noah Hannafin on it. Like, come on. The bar is just different, man.
Yeah, it is very, very different. I've thought about that a little bit too. I've just been like, we can't shake this goaltending conversation no matter where we look. But I do think it's just a lot different when the other end of the ice is Connor Hellebuck. And Binnington's not been Binnington for a long time, where Skinner was Skinner like not even a year ago. We did get a super chat, Tyler.
We did, from our friend Bob Stauffer, or someone who is just calling themselves Bob Stauffer. All the super chats go to support our friends over at the Ben Stelter Foundation, who do some great work. Bob is in and says, as Biz would say, Makar is going to be walking the line like Shakira.
Those hips don't lie on Makar, that is for sure.
No, they do not. Liam, betting talk for Bet365. Download the app today. Use the promo code NATION, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. This game is a dead pick'em over on Bet365. The over is paying plus 110. I might bet the over. These games are usually low scoring, and maybe this is wishful thinking. With all the eyes that are going to be on our sport tonight, I want to see a 5-3, 4-3 high scoring game. I want the offense to be on display. What do you think about the over? What do you think about the money line?
I love the over. I agree with you. I think some fireworks could happen. The money line is flipped, right? Oh no, sorry, it's a pick'em. The spread is flipped. Technically, I guess Canada is now the favorite. This one must have been from yesterday, because now Canada is minus 1.5 plus 240, and I love that line. I just think and I would, if I was a US fan, I would also go US puck line. I just think sometimes in these finals, right, like you pull the goalie earlier, like a bit more nervous, you fumble the puck more at the blue line perhaps, and all of a sudden you got a puck line score. So I love the puck line tonight. And we were looking at the goal scorers too, and I've been loving that all tournament. But McDavid plus 210 to score, McKinnon plus 190. Like, I'm throwing a little bit on both of those guys and the other guy too. And I don't usually like to bet on the other team, but in this event I have been, and I will continue to do it. Like, Jake Guentzel plus 320 is an awesome line. I love that one so much.
Yeah, my favorite goal scorers, you just said McDavid. I love McDavid. I'm also going to have a sprinkle on Brad Marchand at plus 550 in this hockey game. From an American side of things, I do think Dylan Larkin's had a great tournament. He's also plus 550, so I might take a look at that. I'm also going to the shot prop parlays in this one. I'm juicing Connor McDavid all the way to 5 shots on goal and getting that thing at plus 375. I think Connor's going to be motivated. I think he's going to be ripping the puck. I also don't mind his line mate Braden Point to get 3 shots at plus 175. So yeah, there's where I'm going with my shot props for this hockey game tonight.
Yeah, you can also look at the points too, which is something that I've dabbled in a little bit. If you don't want to go straight up with a goal scorer, like Sidney Crosby minus 130, McCaw minus 115, Sam Reinhart 110. Even a guy, if you want to look at the US, like again Guentzel plus 110, Zach Rowensky plus 115. I've literally I didn't do anything against Sweden, but the first 2 games I had money on a Rowensky point, and it cashed very easily.
All right, Liam, let's wrap up the show with keys to victory for the Edmonton Police Service, who want to remind you to drive responsibly. If you see another driver on the road who you think may be impaired by drugs or alcohol, do not hesitate. Call 911 immediately and help curb the danger. For more information on Curb the Danger, go to edmontonpolice.ca/impaired driving. Tonight, I will tell you, people in the chat, whether you're going to Greta, you're going to a buddy's house, whatever you're doing, just Uber. Just Uber. Don't be an idiot. For EPS, Liam, keys to victory, if you're a fan watching the game, is Uber and get home safely. Do not drink and drive. Keys to victory on the ice for Canada is?
The 2 best players in the game, Nathan McKinnon and Connor McDavid. They have to be difference makers tonight. I don't think McKinnon did enough when Canada played the US on Saturday, and he needs to find that next level again, like he's more than capable of doing. And I just need those 2. If they can dominate the game, I think Canada will win this game.
I'm going to say get a clutch goal from an unsung hero. Brad Marchand, Mitch Marner. I'm confident, Liam. I think the big dogs are going to eat. Nate, Sid, Connor, they're good. They will get some offense going. Marchand, Marner, Hagel. One of those guys needs to score a big goal for Team Canada. That is the path to getting the 4th goal that you will need to beat Team USA. So I am saying someone in the bottom 6 has to come through and have a really impactful game. And I like it to be Brad Marchand in this one. So there you go. This is going to be a lot of fun tonight, Liam. I haven't been this nervous for a hockey game since Game 7 of last season, or maybe since the cat food bet game against Philadelphia earlier this year. That one's probably pretty close to up to par for me, but it's going to be fun tonight. It's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait.
Yeah. You know, I've not to get too into it, but I feel more nervous about this game than I did Game 7, because I felt almost satisfied with where the Oilers were at in a way going into Game 7, despite how much I wanted them to win. Like, Canada getting silver just doesn't feel like enough. So I think Canada, there's a lot on the line. I've said this before the tournament, like Canada needs to prove they're still the best country at hockey in the world. And tonight is their biggest opportunity to do it. with all this political stuff that's going on, the fact it's in Boston is a huge opportunity for Canada to shut up a lot of people at many levels.
Rusty is in with a comment, and I'll read it because we do love our boy Rusty. He says, let's go. No matter who wins this game, it's going to feed the next generation of hockey heroes. And then his comment ends right there. So we really appreciate that, Rusty. Liam, I have no problem being a little unbiased right now on this show. Let's fucking go, Canada.
Yes.
I want them to beat the wheels off the Americans tonight, and I cannot wait to be in the building at TD Garden. Cannot wait to be going live after the game over on Daily Faceoff with Frank Seravalli. So make sure you flood into that chat no matter the result. Let's have some fun. Remember, as much as there's so much on the line, it is hockey at the end of the day. It is supposed to be fun. This is why we do it. This is why we love the sport. That is going to be a wrap. Liam, you are hosting the show tomorrow because Pat and I have to wake up in the morning, drive 5 hours back to Montreal, then take a late night flight from Montreal back home to Edmonton. But I get to sleep in my own bed tomorrow night, and I am so excited.
Yeah, I'm I can't imagine how desperately you want to come home. As fun as this event I'm sure has been and a fun experience, but like there's nothing better than landing back in Edmonton after a long trip.
All right, everybody in the chat, enjoy the hockey game tonight. You were all fantastic. I'm going to pop on to the sheet with our boy Jeff Merrick, so head over to Daily Faceoff now. You can watch that. Liam, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Everybody in the chat, enjoy the game tonight and oil up, and let's go Canada.